Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a wild, gripping story that's equal parts science, history, and global intrigue, the race to build nuclear weapons. We all know the United States kicked things off with the Manhattan Project, but did you know there are now 10 countries that have successfully developed these game-changing weapons? Each one has a story filled with secrecy, spying, rivalry, and even betrayal, just as fascinating as America's journey. We're going to take you through the full timeline of how these nations raced to master this technology, plus touch on the countries that came close and might still join the list. It all starts in 1938, when German scientists discovered nuclear fission, splitting atoms to unleash massive energy. That breakthrough sparked a global chase, and we're going to unpack every twist and turn. If you're as pumped as I am to dive into this, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. It really helps us keep bringing you epic stories like this. Let's get started. Picture this, it's 1939, and Albert Einstein sends a letter to President Roosevelt, warning that this new fission discovery could lead to a weapon of unimaginable power. The US takes it seriously, especially with World War II raging and fears that Nazi Germany is on the same path. Thus begins the Manhattan Project, a top-secret collaboration between the US, UK, and Canada. They poured nearly 2% of the US GDP into it, billions of dollars in today's money, racing against the Germans, who were working on their own program but lagging far behind. By May 1945, Germany surrenders, but the US keeps pushing. In July, at the Potsdam Conference, President Truman gets word of the Trinity test's success in New Mexico. They've done it. The world's first nuclear bomb, a weapon so powerful it changes history forever. Truman hints to Stalin about this new weapon, but here's the kicker Stalin already knows, thanks to Soviet spies embedded in the Manhattan Project. He's furious the US beat him to it, but he's already got his own program in high gear. The next month, August 1945, the US drops Little Boy and Fat Man on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, forcing Japan's surrender and ending the war. But this isn't the end. It's the start of a global race to catch up. What do you think it was like for scientists working on something this monumental? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The Soviet Union was hot on the US heels, starting their program in 1941 after noticing Western scientists stopped publishing on nuclear fission. They suspected a secret weapons race was on, and boy, were they right. Spurred by the US attacks on Japan, the Soviets went all in, using stolen US designs, but wary of double agents feeding them bad info. They leaned on captured German scientists and their own research, and by 1949, they shocked the world with their first test, RDS-1, in Kazakhstan. The US monopoly was over, kicking off the Cold War arms race. Both sides started stockpiling nukes like there was no tomorrow. Next up was the United Kingdom, and you'd think the US would have shared the tech with their close ally, right? No. The UK actually laid a lot of the groundwork with their tube alloys project in 1940, using scientists fleeing Nazi Germany. They handed their research to the US for the Manhattan Project under the Quebec Agreement, expecting to share the final tech. But in 1945, the US cut them off, leaving the UK to restart their own program. With access to vast uranium supplies and their earlier work, they pulled it off quickly, testing their first bomb, Operation Hurricane, in 1952 off Australia's Montebello Islands. How wild is it that allies would keep secrets like that? What's your take on the US? Holding out on the UK. Meanwhile, the race wasn't just about atomic bombs anymore. It went next level with thermonuclear weapons, or hydrogen bombs, which use fusion, like the process powering stars. These are hundreds of times more powerful than the bombs dropped on Japan. Despite warnings from scientists like Oppenheimer about the dangers, Truman greenlit the US effort, and in 1952, they tested Ivy Mike, a bomb 450 times stronger than Nagasaki's. The Soviets followed with their RDS-37 in 1955, and the UK with Operation Grapple in 1957. This new threat pushed the US to finally share nuclear tech with the UK in 1958, rekindling their partnership. France was next, the fourth country to join the club. They had scientists in the Manhattan Project, but focused on nuclear energy post-war, collaborating with Israel. After the Suez Crisis in 1956 humiliated France, they decided they needed their own deterrent to stay a major power. independent from NATO and the US. President Charles de Gaulle pushed hard, sourcing uranium from French colonies like Niger and Gabon. Despite being in ruins after World War II, French scientists pulled off their first test, Jerbois Blue, in 1960 in Algeria's Sahara Desert, followed by a hydrogen bomb in 1968. The US wasn't thrilled about France going solo. Why do you think they were so against it? Let's hear your thoughts! China came in fifth. Driven by tensions with the US, they got early help from the Soviets, who saw them as a useful ally. But when Khrushchev dialed back on confronting the West, Mao called him soft, causing a rift. The Soviets pulled their support, leaving China to go it alone during the chaos of the Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution. Despite this, they found massive uranium deposits and moved fast, testing their first atomic bomb, Project 596, in 1964 at Lopner, and a hydrogen bomb just 32 months later. The fastest any country has gone from fission to fusion. That's some serious dedication! Israel, the sixth country, is a bit of a mystery. They've never admitted to having nukes, but leaks suggest they started working with France in the 1950s. They built a secret facility in the Negev desert, which raised eyebrows when JFK demanded inspections. Israel stalled, hiding underground labs, and likely had weapons by 1967. The big reveal came in 1986 when Mordecai Vanunu, a technician, leaked photos and documents to the British press, exposing the program. He paid a steep price, kidnapped by Mossad, tried for treason, and jailed for 18 years. What do you think about Israel's secrecy? Is it strategic or risky? India was seventh, spurred by conflicts with China and Pakistan. They started research in the 1940s but sped up after losing a border war to China in 1962. Using Canadian and US reactors meant for energy, they secretly developed weapons, testing Smiling Buddha in 1974 in Rajasthan. It was called a peaceful explosion, but the world wasn't buying it, slapping sanctions on India for misusing tech and dodging the Non-Proliferation Treaty. They held off on full weaponization until the 1990s. South Africa's story is wild. The eighth country, they had huge uranium reserves and supplied the US, UK, and others. By the 1960s, apartheid and Soviet influence in neighboring countries pushed them toward weapons. They nearly tested a bomb in 1977 in the Kalahari Desert, but Soviet satellites spotted it and international pressure stopped them. In 1979, a mysterious double flash near the Prince Edward Islands, likely a joint test with Israel, raised suspicions. By the 1980s, they had 6 bombs, possibly with Israel's help, but as apartheid ended and the Soviet threat faded, South Africa dismantled its arsenal in the 1990s, becoming the first nation to voluntarily give up nukes. How incredible is that? What do you think drove them to disarm? Pakistan, the ninth, started in the 1970s after losing to India in 1971. Their prime minister vowed they'd eat grass to get a bomb. Scientist Abdul Qadir Khan stole uranium enrichment tech from a Dutch facility, and with China's help, Pakistan tested 5 bombs in 1998, weeks after India's tests. Unlike India's no first use policy, Pakistan reserves the right to strike first, which has kept India cautious in conflicts. Khan later admitted to selling tech to North Korea, Iran, and Libya, sparking global alarm. North Korea, the 10th and final country, saw nukes as key to regime survival. Starting in the 1950s with Soviet help for energy, they went rogue in the 1980s using their own uranium. They signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty but cheated, withdrawing in 2003. Their first test in 2006 was a dud, but by 2017 they had thermonuclear bombs, flexing their power under Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un. Beyond these 10, countries like Belgium, Germany, and others hosted US nukes during the Cold War, while Argentina, Iran, and others tried but failed to develop their own due to pressure or sabotage. Iran's still a contender, and Saudi Arabia is watching closely. Nuclear-free zones like Latin America's Tlatelolco Treaty aim to limit spread, but submarines carrying nukes keep the threat global. This race is far from over. Who do you think might be next? Drop your guesses in the comments, hit like, and subscribe for more deep dives. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.